Hello, everyone. This is Lloyd Richard Jr. Yes, I know I am popping up on Lloyd's Lloyd Senior's account, and that's because he is traveling today. So I am
Hello, everyone. This
taking
is
on
Lloyd
for you.
Richard
Give me
Jr.
one moment.
Yes, I know I am popping up on.
So I have several things running at one time, but I am excited to have you all here today. I'm going to ask Vercel Vance to come online and tell you about an exciting project that Startup on the Blocks has for us today. And I hope that you all stay tuned because our speaker is going to be quite dynamic for you. There's Bob Foster. He's there yet, but I'm going to have Vercel, if you can come on up real quickly and give us that announcement.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me?
You are on and live, Vercel. You're still muted. You just muted yourself again. There you go.
Hello, everyone. You have joined us. I'm going to give you a quick review of our pitch competition at KuKua, Software on the Blocks. Our early bird application ends November 22nd. And if you apply, or if you know someone who might have an idea that that they would love to exploit, we'd love to get an application. The benefit of doing the early bird application is 5 of the early bird applicants will automatically flow through to the semifinal and get an opportunity to pitch. And the deadline for the regular judging is November 22nd. And the finals is 12/17. And we got some great prizes. We got cash prizes and a lot of products and services on tap here for the winners and for participants, such as, I'll be very quick, Software on the Blocks is offering about $1,080 in products and services, plus $1,000 for the first place winner, $660 for second place, and $340 for third place. I just got notice before I came on this evening that Spark XYZ is offering an additional software product called Zendesk. In addition to Amazon Web Services and products and services just such as that. It's going to be great, over $450,000 in value. So if you know someone that wants to compete, tell them to go to pitch.kukuainstitute.com. I'm sorry, .org. That's all I have.
So much, Vercel. I appreciate it. And so without further ado, I'm gonna have Vercel gonna step on out of the camera and chat there. Definitely apply for the pitch competition. Just a little side note, there's so much you can learn by just starting off your idea. If you have any questions about that, you can personally message me, and I definitely can answer any questions, as well as Vercel, while we're in our presentation. In the meantime, I would like to introduce Bob Foster. He is an incredible man, very snazzy today too, much more well-dressed than I. Are you unmuted, Bob?
I believe I am. Can you hear me?
Yep, absolutely. We just want to thank you so much for coming in and definitely giving your expertise today. You have founded 12 tech companies over the course of your time, as well as you're working with the you've worked with the UWF Veterans Entrepreneurial Training Program, which is so beneficial because the Startup on the Blocks and KuKua Institute is connected with a veterans program. So I hope to hear a little bit more about that as well. But I'm going to let you have the floor and dawn us with your wisdom.
Thanks. Most importantly, I've been bankrupt 3 times, which means that, and one of those bankruptcies was $450 million.
Wow.
So I learned the hard way, and Lloyd and KuKua is going to prevent and help entrepreneurs, not what I went through by accident, right? So I went through the trial by fire. Now my video box down below my picture says it's that I'm blocked out, but can everybody see me? Is there any way you can tell if people can actually see me? I can see you.
Yes, we can see you. Absolutely.
Okay, good. Okay, so I am proof that God protects idiots. And that the way I got started in the entrepreneur world was when I was 12 years old in Pensacola, Florida. I came home from Warrington Elementary, and we lived down in Warrington. And I was living with my mother. My father had gone somewhere else. And when I came home, our furniture, our toys, our dishes, everything were in the ditch. We had been evicted. And thank God a neighbor took us in. And my mother from the 40s and 50s had never worked. And she turned to me and she said, "Bobby, you've got to make some money." I'm 12 years old. And I did have a paper route. And those of you with gray hair will remember in the old days, we had a bicycle and a big cloth bag. And we'd get up at 3 a.m. with no street lights. And we'd fold the papers, put them in the cloth bag. And then we'd pedal all over and throw the papers. And I had accumulated $9. I was making about $3 a month. And so being 12 years old, she told me to go make money. So I thought, well, what can I do? Well, I play guitar. And at that time, I had a little band, and we could get on the Naval Air Station, and I would play at the Enlisted Men's Club. And I remember the sailors saying that when they were closing the club, they were all heavily sedated. They would say, "I don't want to go back to the barracks. You know, there's no food, there's no anything." And so I pedaled out Gulf Beach Highway on my bicycle, and I went to a day-old bread store, and I bought $9 worth of Lorna Doones, moon pies, and Twinkies for 1 or 2 cents a piece, put them in my paper bag. And Saturday morning, I pedaled out on Naval Air Station, and I went to the barracks. And I would go in, and there'd be some guy sleeping at the front desk because they didn't have vending machines and all the stuff we have today. And I'd say, "Sir, I have food." And he'd get on the PA set and he'd say, "There's food in the lobby." And I spent $9. And the first day I went home with $156 in 1958, when an average adult salary was $300 a month. Well, I figured, well, if they got drunk on Friday nights, they'd get drunk on Saturday nights too. So I started going out Saturday and Sunday, and pretty soon the sailors started placing orders. And within a year, I bought my mother a home on Coreyfield Road, which used to be nice, and I paid cash for it. And that's how I got started. And so success comes from desperation, inspiration, and accident. That happened to be a desperation moment, but I saw, the message in there is that I saw a need. I found a product that had margin. I was the distribution system, and I made money. So there's a lesson there. So I left. I went in the Army in '67, and when I got out, I came back to Pensacola and lucked into a job, a high school graduate, no college, and ended up having a 17-year. Started with an engineer with IBM, simply because I didn't know any better, and I pestered them till they finally hired me, and I had 17 wonderful years with IBM. And so probably 6 or 7 years ago, I lose track of time, I wanted to get back to Pensacola from Austin, Texas, where I'd spent 40 years, other than some trips to New England and France and so on. And I met Lloyd Richard. I think it was at the IT Gulf Coast meeting. which the lesson is people give money and people give support to people whom they know. So you must get involved with your community. Join a chamber, join a Rotary, join a technology council, get involved. Big money does not give money to business plans. It gives money to people whom they know. Okay, so anyway, I met Lloyd, and he was cognitive big data systems and artificial intelligence. And I was trying to find a job here. And of course, there's not that many jobs in Pensacola. And I went back to Austin, and Lloyd went to the Venture Hive Veterans Business Accelerator in Fort Walton Beach. And they had a wonderful instructor who was a retired commander from a Navy minesweeper, which means he knew all the facts, but he wasn't a lot of fun. So I was Army, by the way. Lloyd told the owner of Venture Hive that he knew this crazy old man, Bob Foster. And Lloyd actually got me hired by Venture Hive, and I ran the Veterans Business Accelerator in Fort Walton Beach for a couple, 3 years until the University of West Florida came down and found me, and they hired me, and I ran the Veterans Florida Entrepreneur Training Program at University of West Florida. Of course, COVID has kind of shut that down, but one of the main things I want to emphasize is Lloyd has always preached, and actually he was aware of it before I was. I learned the lean canvas business model by accident, and it cost me millions of dollars. Lloyd saw it and he understood it. So learn the lean business canvas model. It will save you millions of dollars. It will save you heartbreak, because it will help you know if you really have a product. And I want to mention on YouTube, there are like 3 to 5 minute videos under something called Udacity, Udacity. It's all about the lean canvas. And I'm telling you, the lean canvas is a key to success. So Lloyd has it right. So in my exciting years in Austin, I started multiple technology companies, some in Russia and some here and there. And 3 of them were very successful. One of them is actually billing $1 billion with a B dollars a year, which I just found out recently. Another one was acquired, a cybersecurity company. And one I lost to the evil venture capitalists. And you have to understand, if you're going to take money from, and not all VC are evil, if you're going to take money from big investors, they are there to make money. They are not there to love you. So it's just the way it is. So, but the first company I want to share with you is it's called Apogee, APOGEE.US. And 22 years ago, 2 guys my age came to me in Austin, and they had put $1 million into this 21-year-old's company, and he was trying to sell telecommunication services to higher education. Well, he was a 21-year-old guy talking to primarily 50 or 60-year-old men in IT, and those of you around IT, and he was going nowhere. He had one client, and that was his uncle in North Austin. And so they asked me if I would come in and help him out. And this is not totally relevant, but I'll share it. So when I met him, he's broke, he's upside down, he's going to go bankrupt. So I said, son, I'm going to try to help you out, but I want to tell you there's only 1 of 3 things that you can ever say to me. That is, good morning, good job, or you're fired. And I said, because if I'm not producing, you throw me out. And that's something you have to learn also, is that you keep good people. You don't want to hurt other people, but if they're in over their head and they can't be trained, you've got to go for the talent. So anyway, I sold his first 3 colleges, Ithaca, Birmingham Southern, and Florida State, and was there about a year, and then I went away. But he has sent me $1,000 a month for 22 years. He won't give anybody stock, but I'll take the $1,000. And then he called me about 6, 7, 8 months ago and said, hey, old man, you got some bandwidth. I want to start another company. And I said, wow, is your company in trouble? And he says, no, I'm billing about $1 billion a year. So he's very successful. And I'm going to shorten this because it's not totally relevant. But we launched a COVID testing network, and that could turn tests around fast enough for college athletics. And that company was acquired about 8 weeks ago. So I got to clear the MasterCard. I can't retire yet, but he did very well. So he was very, very smart. But he proved out his services, not his technology, not his gizmo, not his widget, by us going and talking to the client, which is the business model, canvas model, is no matter how cool you think your product is, you need to go talk to the person who might buy it. And this is a real story. Young man came to me actually a couple of weeks ago, and he said, electric cars are becoming prevalent, but young people like to have cars that sound like race cars. And he says, I'm going to create a device that's connected to the throttle through artificial intelligence, so that as you accelerate your electric car, it sounds like a hot Dodge or Ram or whatever. And then this is one of my first lessons. Google is your friend. So I told him, I said, have you Googled to see if somebody else is doing it? Guess what? Audi. Okay. So he had a great idea, but he could have spent a lot of time trying to build a system that was already in place, and there are other people doing it too. So Google is your friend. Always go to Google. Now, just because you find somebody who's already doing it, and by the way, Lloyd Jr., if questions pop up, you want to pop in, just let me know. But Google is your friend, but even though you find somebody that's doing it, it doesn't mean they're doing it right, and you may be able to pick it up, and because it's all about positioning. It's all about positioning. So, and then a couple other things I've learned is that all things will take longer and cost more than you think, right? And so you got to plan for that. And $25,000, $100,000, it's not a lot of money. $500,000 is not a lot of money. It burns off really fast. And so assume that it's going to take longer and cost more, and then something will go wrong. I promise you. Somebody will get in a fight with their wife and get divorced and leave. There'll be a car crash. There'll be a hurricane. And this is a real story. So a retired Marine major and I started a business intelligence company. And I was acting as a salesperson. He was a really smart IT guy. And I signed up Cisco. I signed up Oracle. I signed up Dell. And I just signed a $7 million a year contract with Dun & Bradstreet. And we were about to hit it big. And we had taken money from a venture capitalist. And when you take money from a venture capitalist, you have to make your numbers each year or each 6 months, or they take your company or pieces of your company. And we just signed that contract. And 2 days later, the terrorist flew into the towers at the Twin Towers and destroyed the offices of some of my clients. And they canceled, and the venture capitalists took my company, took our company. So something will happen. The lean canvas model will help you anticipate those things. So just like this COVID virus testing network that we set up, we lucked up in that we ended up selling the company 2 weeks before the demand for testing dropped. Now, we lucked up, but we did not anticipate that. So use that canvas model. Excuse me. Okay, so the other thing is that not everything has to be rocket science. If you look around, sorry, apology. Look around and see the things that sell. They aren't always rocket science. There's something, because people aren't buying the widget, they're buying the emotion or the experience or the outcome. All right, so it's very typical. I'm a technical guy too. I get all involved with the bits and the bytes and the inks and acts and reverse interrupts and stuff. But somebody just wants a piece of paper to pop out the other end. And I learned this presenting. We got a $3 million investment from a venture capitalist. And the way I got the money is I said, he wanted to know all about what the technology. And I said, well, sir, here's what I want to tell you. I said, I put a $1 bill in this end of the box, metaphorically, and a $10 bill comes out of the box on the other side, legally. So why do you care what's in the box, right? So remember, look at your results and don't get all ground up in the technology, except for, of course, to protect yourself with intellectual property and so on. So, and then another message I would give you is know where your expertise stops and somebody expertise starts. Okay, so even though I have an engineering background and blah, 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 I look like a sales guy, right? I got the tie, you know, I got the white shirt. And but I'm a schmoozer, so people like to talk to me. But I've learned that if I go into a meeting for investment or to sell a product or something, that I get to a certain point, then I turn to the guy next to me in the short sleeve shirt and the Birkenstocks, and I say, gentlemen, let you talk to the subject matter expert. And that's where I stop, even though I could have been the subject matter expert, but I don't look like it. So remember to utilize your staff and partners. Know where you stop, where they start, so that you give the right perception to your potential clients or investors. So, and don't be afraid to change. And that's the toughest thing, is that sometimes we're just wrong. You know, if it doesn't work, nobody's buying it, then put lipstick and high heels on it and sell it a different way. I mean, it's so sometimes you have to endure, because particularly if you're changing a market, sometimes you really have a fight. But and there is a story here, is that they who endure survive, and they who survive win. And this is a real story. Well, I was a late bloomer. Thank God that. Because now that I'm 100 years old, I only look like I'm 70. But so I was a late bloomer here at Warrington Junior High School. And so everybody picked on me. You know, I was always getting knocked on the head, or had my people punch me or whatever. And so one day I walked into the gym. And of course, back in the old days, the athletic directors or gym leaders, who usually were also a science teacher, they could slap you around, and couldn't do it today. So I walk in, and all the football team is dressed out, and he picked me up and threw me out on the mat, and he called out Bobby Hess, who was this a real guy here in Pensacola, who unfortunately died in Vietnam. But he said, Foster, you're going to wrestle Bobby Hess. God bless his soul. And Bobby, I was about as big as his leg. And he says, if you don't, I'm going to put the whole football team on you. So when he said go, I ran across the mat. I jumped up. I got my arms behind Bobby Head's neck. And I put my head on his chin, and I just held on. And he beat on me, and he ran me into the lockers, and he body slammed me on the floor. And he punched me. He actually broke one of my ribs. And I wouldn't let go because I was so terrified. And after 20 minutes, he ran out of steam, and he rolled over and said, I give. And I became the guy who beat Bobby Hess, and he became my best friend. So they who endure survive, and they who survive win. So sometimes you do have to just to hold on, but you also need to know when to let go. And then the other thing is the relative to expenses. You know, we all course, now with COVID, maybe not so much, but we all want an office. We all, because it makes us real and so forth and so on. So this is a real example back in Austin, Texas. Okay, so I was investing in some real estate and walking on downtown Austin, which is very nice. And there's this historical building. The outside's actually mahogany. And I look in and the whole front of the building is pretty much empty on the first floor, but there are these beautiful glass offices with brass lamps and so on. And back in the back is a title company, and title companies, of course, handle real estate. So I went in and asked them what was going on. They said, oh, well, everybody else moved out and we're just back here. And I said, if I bring my real estate deals to you, can I have that office? So I got a premier first floor, major on Congress Avenue office for free. And that is the best way to do. So go find a company that you can relate to and offer them something and get free space, get free services, find an attorney's office, find a CPA's office, and so on. Okay, so yeah, I see a question. That's right. I see a question from Vercel.
Yeah, so let's start with that. Vercel says, with your super vast experience portfolio, what would you consider the biggest impediment to starting a business, and how do you circumvent or overcome it? And before you answer that, Bob, we had a poll that we posted, and one of the questions was, what is the challenge you have to idea? And the results of the poll as it stands right now, 50% of those who answered said personal time management, followed by getting funding or investors. Can you speak on that, both of those things?
Yeah, that pretty much hits on what Vercel's asking is that it's usually about money, and it is about time. And so particularly on the front end, you end up spending a lot of unpaid time, and it's something you have to make a decision whether or not you want to do. And then relative to the funding is that it's hard to get money from strangers. So that we go back to, you got to get involved with your community, because I give money to people whom I know, and people who know me give money to me. You get the idea? And then secondly, sell a solution, not a product, to get money. And it's easier to get money if you've got a couple of clients, right? So I just met with a young man today who was a guest speaker at one of my classes, and he has a great idea. And it's not rocket science, and it's not expensive. And we could probably launch the company for like $5,000. So he and I can afford to do that. But I could go to 5 people and say, you want to throw $1,000 in a pot, and here's what we're doing. And because it's not rocket science, and because I look like the doctor, right, I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many people come up to me every day. I work out of Everman North and Everman Downtown. People come up to me every day and say, who are you? What do you do? Because most people don't dress like this. Everman actually put in a private Wi-Fi line in both stores for me. Because I'm like PR or something. I don't get it. Anyway, get involved. And I see another question that's come up talking about branding as a sales. What are the 3 top branding tips you can offer? Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really. As a startup, one of the easiest ways to get branded is to stand next to someone who's bigger than you. Okay. So you can, no matter, I got all the press, you got the website, But when I went to this one company I started with, a Marine, back many years ago, I had done a favor for somebody at Dun & Bradstreet. And Dun & Bradstreet allowed me to use their name. And when I said that, inetprofit.com, is endorsed by Dun & Bradstreet, all the big dogs rolled over. So make a friend with a big dog. And the way you make a friend with a big dog is to send them business. You got to give to get. And I'm not talking about greed. I give every day. In fact, today at Everband, this older gentleman came over to me. He says, excuse me, sir, I see you here all the time. He says, people tell me that you work with veterans. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, I'm 80 years old and I'm having a problem getting my benefits. And I said, well, let me give you, and he was a retired Marine, combat guy. I said, let me give you a phone number of a Marine colonel, retired combat veteran, and he'll break the door down for you. Okay. And I just do it. You do that for 50 years. You got to give to get. And I mean, like I said, I'm not doing it to get anything. And he served our country, but this is a real story. Way back when I was a sales rep for IBM, most people don't remember the old IBM, but we sold typewriters. What's a typewriter? We sold typewriters and mainframe computers and key punch machines. They hired a young man and he was struggling. And for whatever reason, I said, Steve, what's going on? He said, I just don't get this. I said, why don't you come on with some calls with me? Now, he's actually my competitor, right? Because we were young and, we wanted to be the star and get the trophy. And I just helped him out. Okay, so 8 years later, I get my fanny in a ringer. Lost my wife. I don't have any money. I don't know what to do. I was in Columbus, Ohio. And I get an envelope from Steve Smith with a check for $40,000. And he says, you saved my life. You get what I'm saying? It's just like, it's a miracle. So remember, everything you do, I'm telling you, I am serious. I'm proof that God protects idiots. Because if you help people in sincerity, it comes back. So like right now, I'm kind of bored. I don't have enough to do. I sold the COVID company, So a young man I helped, a veteran, I said, Gary, I'm trying to find my next project. And it turns out, well, I'm not going to be political to say, but, well, I'm now working for, Congressman, blah, blah, blah. He says, send me your resume. Next thing you know, I get a phone call. You know what I mean? It's like, so you really got to give to get. It's just, it's really true.
What I also hear you saying too is also about networking. And Dr. Wimborne had made a comment that people should join chambers and networking groups as well. How do you feel about that? Does that factor in?
Oh yeah. Is that the Wimborne?
Yeah, Dr. Sandra Wimborne.
Yeah, she's one of my graduates. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yes. So again, get involved. So chamber, Rotary, there's all more stuff going on. You can imagine 1 Million Cups, IT Workforce Advisory Board, West Florida Defense Alliance. There's a group here in town called PVASON, Panhandle Veterans Service Organization Network. They meet once a quarter. There will be 150 people in the room. Not all of them are nonprofit, some are profit, but you're in one room with people who are trying to do good, and all you got to do is be honest and nice. That is the power. I mean, that is the power. Also, I have 14,000 first connections on LinkedIn. I mean, that's insane, right? But I can go
break LinkedIn. It sounds like
I can get on LinkedIn and say I need a toenail clipper. You see what I'm saying? But I reciprocate, right? I never forget the people who help me. And
that's powerful.
It's so important. The other thing about branding is you can do a lot of your own branding. Here in town, it's a little tougher with the Pensacola News Journal, but write press releases. They are hungry for content. If you read the articles in the journal, at the end of each article, there's usually an email address of so-and-so. They're hungry for content. Feed them content and get your own press. The other way for sales branding is, so I got a call today from a woman I met probably 2 or 3 years ago at a thing in Brownsville. She got my business card, and she's with Primerica. And, I kind of knew one of my friends decades ago kind of been in it, and so I knew, I was thinking life insurance or something like that. But they had a really cool, professionally made webinar, and she asked me if I look at it. I said, sure. I looked at it. It was really good, and it would really be good for veterans because it's structured, it can be at home, and it's a job in a box, and it has some good stuff, good reputation. And so I called her back and I said, look, I have to admit, I'm surprised that I'm really impressed. So I told her that tomorrow, I said, I'm going to put this out to some veteran networks I know where there are people who are looking for jobs that need the structure, the job in the box, and predictability, right? And so she will never forget me, right? And so I'm not doing it to get a check, but you got to give to get. You got to give to get.
Yeah, and you're making that genuine connection because you're saying you see the business and the work that she's doing, and you took the time to watch that stuff. That's powerful.
That's exactly it. Because we're all trying to make a living, and it's this COVID time is really tough. And the other branding thing is try to come up with a lightning rod. So, you've heard the one-liners on TV, but if somebody says ice cream cone, I don't have a really good example right now, is that they want to say, oh yeah, Foster's vanilla, that come up with a hook where everybody knows what you're doing, like startups on the block. I mean, that is a great branding tag. Startups on the block. Well, where's that? What do they do? Startups. You get the idea? And so,
absolutely.
Yeah. What is your lightning rod? Okay, so now part of my lightning rod is my attire, right? This is a brand. I wear it less now with the COVID stuff, but you're the guy with the suspenders. You're the guy that needs a haircut, whatever it is. So establish your brand. So when that's why when you go into grocery store, certain things are a color. It's like I went in to get some Zicam, which is for colds, and their box is orange and white. So what is your orange and white? That makes sense?
It actually is about ending a little bit. Cheryl Ford states in here, she's in bootstrapping, and she's gotten a request. Someone offered her to complete a project that is in the same industry, but not exactly what she does, what she wants to do. Right. And she wants to know, basically, should she take the business? Should she go for that, or should she focus on what she's doing personally?
Well, that's a tough one. Yeah, because it's tempting. Depends on how close it is to her business, and will it impact her ability to do what she. Is that Cheryl Ford, ex-Air Force? I don't know, but I know it's Cheryl Ford, Fort Walton.
I'm not sure. Cheryl, if you get a chance, can you type here in the stage where you're from?
But
I guess
while she's typing, you have to really be careful about chasing shiny objects, right? However, sometimes the shining object is what you should really be focusing on. You get the idea? So it's really easy, particularly if you're involved in government deals and so on, and grants or DoD contracts. As you chase this, you chase that, you chase this, you chase that, and if there are more shiny objects in one pile than what you have, then you might be chasing the wrong shiny object. So it's something to look at. And if she can execute it without damaging her current company, then it's okay. But you have to be careful, because it's easy to get distracted, and then that contract's over. And meanwhile, your core business. So what is your core business? What is your core business?
She's stating in the chat that you trained her in the past, and she's from Fort
That's
Walton.
Cheryl. Yo, that's Cheryl. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, in fact, Cheryl, I've been looking at the container homes. She's a super sharp person. And, there's a big need for affordable housing in the Panhandle. And Cheryl had some great ideas. And anyway, I just recently reached out to her. So I'm glad to hear she's on the line. So it would be nice to visit with her and find out what she's trying to do next. But yeah, you have to be careful. Sometimes you have to do it to pay the bills, right? I mean, sometimes you have to do what you got to do. You got to cut the grass sometimes. I mean, I collected cans. Sometimes, like I say, you got to do what you do. One last another story about enduring. So I left IBM in '84 and stumbled into a commercial real estate company. I had no idea what was going on. I had no experience in it, but I look like I know what I'm doing. And I had no idea there was this real estate boom going on in Texas. And the president closed a big deal, made $6 million and quit. Okay. So I'm sitting in a room, I'm 40, maybe something, I don't know. And everybody else in the room was in 20, and they're in their shorts and flip-flops and Hawaiian shirts. And I'm dressed like this. And I didn't know it at that time, but they were like the wolves of Wall Street. They were not living a healthy lifestyle. But the owners of the company came over, and they walked in the room, and they walked up to me and they said, "Are you the IBM guy?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And they said, "You're president." And I became president of a $450 million entity. Right? Simply because I look like the boss. Right? I look like the boss. So remember that. So that's the one I got to ride into bankruptcy, but I became seasoned. And when we went in the ditch, I lost my car, I lost my wife. My home was posted for foreclosure, but I lucked up. The guy who was supposed to foreclose me threw the folder under a chair or something. He quit. But I would get up in the morning and put my suit in a backpack, and I would run 8 miles to the office where there was no pay. I would bathe in the bathroom, and then I would beg rides. And yeah, and so that's why at 105 I still look reasonably okay. But here's another message: is that nobody was making money, and I said somebody's making money in this town, and this is a message. I said somebody in this town is making money, and I'm going to find out who he or she is, and I'm going to do what they do until I get it right. And I found that person, and I'm flat broke. I'm serious, collecting cans to eat, $2 a day. And I ended up buying a $2.7 million apartment complex. Yes, with a partner from Canada. And he gave me 25% of the deal because I put it together. And I'll probably give a few more minutes here. I'll tell that story real quick because I want to give you an inspiration here. So I found out that people who were making money controlled things. They either owned them, they had them under contract, or at that time there were no listings like there are today, or they were the property manager. And so all the foreigners were flowing into Austin to buy these foreclosures. And so people who, primarily the property managers who controlled big properties, were acting as brokers and making big money. So I looked like money. I put the word out I was buying. All the brokers wanted to believe. So a broker brought me an apartment complex, 176 units in South Austin, $2.7 million. His a client was going to drop the deal. And I said, I'll make an offer. I have zero. I go to the University of Texas, and this is called bootstrapping. I go to the University of Texas Law Library, and I copy the contracts out of the law library. I write the contract myself, no attorney. I negotiate with Fannie Mae, no attorney. I get it under contract. I have to post $50,000 earnest money in 3 business days. So I put it in the title on Friday. So I got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for free. I'm calling everybody I ever knew in my life. Nobody in Texas had money. I'm sweating bullets, and I can't find anybody. And so the 3 days are up, and I call Fannie Mae to tell them I have to drop the contract, and they're already backup offers. And they say, "Oh, I'm sorry. The guy who handles that's out sick with the flu." But if I hadn't tried, so you got to try. You got to try. You have to endure. They who endure survive. They who survive win. So in the meantime, I'm calling people in foreign countries. I call people in Europe and in Canada, and I call this guy Camille Villeneuve in Quebec, Canada. And he says, "I smell you sweating. Venez-y-bleu déficient. You have no money. I just wait till you drop the contract. I take it away from you." And I found out that sorry for the long story, the water bill at my apartment complex was $30,000 a year more than it should be. And if I could make that expense go away, it would make the property immediately worth $300,000 more. And it turns out the reason it was that high is they had bad toilet flappers. And so I called Camille back and I said, "Mr. Villeneuve, I can make this property worth $300,000 more 5 days after we close for about $2,500. "Well, I don't believe you." I said, "Well, if you'll sign an agreement, I'll tell you the secret of the temple." And he did, and I did. And he said, "Wow, let's do some more." And he sent me 50 grand. He put up the $700,000 down payment, and we ended up buying tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate. And I was broke. So see the opportunity, execute. What are you going to lose if you're broke? Right? And do your research. So sorry for that long story, but I want to let you know it's been a journey. So any other questions or?
See any other questions right now, but I just want to say your story is absolutely incredible and definitely something we needed to hear here at Startup on the Blocks. I wanted to pose something as a personal question to you.
Sure.
One of the things that we also see very often when we're talking about businesses is this venture capitalist mindset of like starting a business and having it being able to be sold.
Right.
And whereas a lot of times people start their business thinking that this is going to be their long-term thing that they're going to take all the way down the road. Can you talk about that mindset and how that hinders and helps the startup process?
Yeah, sure. If you want to take money from a venture capitalist, understand that they are not looking at your future. I mean, they're not mean necessarily, but if you want to start a lifestyle business, that's a totally different thing because they are there to make a big pop. And if you get run over in the process, that's just part of the process. And this is another real story. I got a letter. I was in the newspaper a lot in Texas, and I got a letter from a retired Marine major who says, "Mr. Foster, you're always in the newspaper. You seem very creative." He says, "I've been 20 years in the Marines. I want to be an entrepreneur. May I meet with you?" So I had him come in, and he was, wrapped like the inside of a golf ball from war. He said he wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I said, Marine entrepreneur. I said, "Isn't that an oxymoron?" He goes, What? And I said, "No." I said, "I'm a civilian. That's called a joke." And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he says, "Well, I haven't really done very many things nice. He says, I want to do something nice." He says, "I want to do something in human resources." And I literally fell out of my chair. You can tell I'm a little dramatic. And I go, HR. They don't have a budget. You only go to them when you have a problem. "I don't care. That's what I want to do." I said, "Okay." And he actually had a pretty good idea. I said, "I'll take you to the venture capitalist, and you let me know when you're tired of being beaten on the head." So the first one we went to, the second PowerPoint slide, they stood up, ripped his business plan in half, and threw it at us. Oh, listen, because they're looking about profit, not doing good, right? So after about 70 days, Foster, these blankety blanks, all they care about is profit. I said, "Yeah." "What are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, why don't we start a company called inetprofit.com? What's it going to do? And I said, you're the Marine. Tell me tomorrow. And he came up with a really good idea. We raised $3 million, started a company, and we're going gangbusters. And that's the one we lost when the jets flew into the towers and we lost our clients. So that's the other thing I want to make. I want to remind you, something will go wrong. So have contingency plans. So
that's
lifestyle.
powerful.
Like I say,
We have,
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Well, we have about 10 minutes, and there's not been a lot of questions left, but everyone is thanking you for your amazing stories and your wisdom. And definitely take the floor for these last 10 minutes. Give us some inspiration and maybe some resources that we can check out online to see more about what you're talking about in regards to networking and venture capital.
Sure, absolutely. If West Florida Defense Alliance, because we're such a heavy military community, meets once a quarter at the chamber. And it's not just military, it's all the base skippers and commanders, and then it's higher education, and then secondary education, and then it's the worker bees. And that's a good place to land. 1 million cups. There are groups in town like Escambia County has the IT Workforce Advisory Board. Get involved with that. Right now, something I just saw the Florida West just launched a new website called Cybersecurity Pensacola. They're trying to attract cybersecurity people to come here and work remote. Okay, so and again, this is the give to get. So if you can help attract people here, then you become a friend of Florida West, who gets money from the University of West Florida, and they get money from the county. See, it's a web. It's all about a web, and so a good Rotary. You can go to a Rotary meeting every day here. Particularly, I don't know if they meet anymore downtown because of COVID, but they're at the landing. They're one a day, even if they're remote. And the main thing is just get out there and meet people. Understand that in Pensacola, other than Quint Studer, a large amount of the huge wealth in this town is inside law firms. So, so if you can make friends with a law firm, I mean, I won't name them right now, but one I know has $500 million in the bank, and they don't want to sit in there; they invest. So if you can bring them business, make a friend, they become an investor. And because they're attorneys, one, they'll make sure that everything's dotted right and all that, but they're not venture capitalists, right? They want to make a profit. They don't want to boot you out and sell you to Wall Street. And I assume Lloyd and Lloyd Jr. probably send you my email address. If you ever need help, let me know, you know. Glad.
Actually, Carlos actually asked for your contact information before down there. So
super. Well, I'm glad.
We'll definitely share.
Glad to help. And like I said, I am in the business of starting businesses. And typically I'm not in the business of taking any of your business. I want to create jobs for Pensacola, Florida. I grew up poor. I want us to have jobs. And like I say, I'm proof that God protects idiots. It's really true.
Well, we appreciate your ingenuity, because one of the things I really pulled out from your lessons and your talk today was that you just kind of have to go in there and think on your feet a little bit, and don't be afraid to think on your feet in those times, particularly even if when you're at your bare minimum.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one last war story. Okay, so 7th grade, a long time ago, I was going to Warrington Junior High School. And for those of us with gray hair, in the old days, televisions had tubes, okay? Kids today don't know that. And the tubes would go bad, so you would take off the back of your TV and you take these tubes out and you go down to the local drugstore, and there'd be something about half the size of a refrigerator, and you plug the tubes in and press a button, and it would tell you if the tubes were bad or good, right? So I'm down in Warrington at the drugstore that's no longer there, and there is the tube tester on its side behind the drugstore, and it's full of tubes. So I go in and I say, "Well, sir, what's the matter with the tube tester?" So, "Oh, the dadgum thing won't work, and we can't get the garbage people to pick it up." And I said, "Can I have it?" And I was sure. So I got 3 or 4 of my friends. We drugged that sucker up. I don't know how we did it actually. But anyway, we got it home, and I took off the back of it, and it had a cord you plugged in the wall, and I took off the back, and a wire was loose. So I screwed the wire back on, and the tube tester worked. So I got me a big piece of cardboard and a magic marker, and I wrote Foster's TV Repair, and I stuck it out in my front yard. And everybody started bringing me their tubes. And so sometimes you have to recognize, of course, I didn't really know what I was doing, but there's opportunity in front of you and you just don't see it. And I ended up selling that. And I think there's still a Foster's TV Repair here in town somewhere on Pace Boulevard. And so just keep your eyes open, and it doesn't always have to be rocket science.
So for some reason, we your video here. No, we didn't lose it. We could.
There we go.
So we appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and insights with us regarding business, networking, how to get out there and get our business in front, and using our ingenuity. If there's any other questions, we invite you to add them in the chat. Bob, can you go ahead and give us your email address while we're online here?
Sure. Should I type it or just say it? It's
you can the chat if you would like, and say it if that would be helpful.
It's B Foster, F-O-S-T. If I could type here, B-O-S-T-E-R at apogee.us. And there you go. And that is the company. That's the company that's still sending me $1,000 a month after 22 years. And
okay.
Yeah, I have an honorary position with them, so I probably spend a couple of hours a year. But they handle university networks. But in 2006, I started a division that does warrant-based wiretaps for law enforcement. So I actually do lawful intercepts. So if your phone clicks, it's me.
You are a man of many hats there.
When I grow up, I'm going to get a job.
Well, I want to just tell you, as a Marine myself, I served 8 years in the reserves of the United States Marine Corps. I want to appreciate you for helping all those Marines start some successful businesses. Some lasted, some didn't, but I appreciate you helping us out.
Yes.
We consider ourselves band of brothers in and of itself.
Thank you so much. Do you know David Glassman or Andrew Delgadio? David's
I have not met him, but I'm getting to know the community.
Yeah, David is a retired Marine colonel, and he's heavily involved. He's an entrepreneur too in tech, but he's heavily involved in helping the community, veteran community. Andrew Delgadio, they're both combat veterans, is the commander of the Military Order of Purple Hearts. And anyway, these are all guys that I work with. And one of my recent non-paying companies is I'm working with 4 7th Special Forces Special Ops guys. We formed an anti-human trafficking entity, and these guys know how to do all that stuff, but they didn't know how to pay the bills. And so I came in and showed them how to make money so they could afford to be nice. And about, I think it's maybe 6 weeks ago, we busted 9 of the meanest, baddest, heavily armed dudes in Mississippi who were selling 10-year-old girls into sex slavery. So these guys are heroes, man.
Wow, that's powerful.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for putting some humanity in business. I think sometimes people feel like it's leaving a little bit, but you're giving us hope. And we appreciate everyone for logging in on Startup on the Blocks today. If you can, make sure you share our pitch competition. I put the pitch competition information in there, as well as Bob Foster's email address, so that way you can contact him, ask those questions that you need, and we'll put together some of those resources that you mentioned earlier, Bob. We'll put them together, those websites, and email them out to everyone on today.
Thanks. My
But
pleasure.
if you have any final words, I'll let you take the final word.
Fine. Just remember, if you snooze, you lose.
Awesome. If you snooze, you lose, guys. All right. Thank you so much, Bob. You have a wonderful evening.
You too.
All right. And thank you all again for joining us for Startups on the Blocks. We thank you so much for coming. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a direct message. You can leave it in the chat here. I'll be on for about 5 more minutes. But thank you all for coming, and definitely start those businesses. Just step out in there, be a little bit daring, and you can do it. Your idea is worth developing. And that's why we're here at Startup on the Blocks. Have a good evening.